Big leadership changes for retailers and apparel brands. Kohl's CEO Michelle Gass is stepping down in December for a new role at Levi Strauss in January. She'll come on as president of Levi's and is expected to gain the CEO title within 18 months. Meanwhile, Adidas naming a new CEO just weeks after the fallout over Kanye West's anti-Semitic comments. Puma CEO Bjorn Gulden will get the job effective January 1st. Gulden worked for Adidas for 7 years in the 1990s. For more on this, let's bring in Morningstar equity analyst David Swartz. David, it's great to have you here. So let's start with Kohl's and the shakeup there. So Michelle Gass is stepping down. You can see from the Wall Street's reaction, they are encouraged by this news. What's your read on the new situation and what this means for the retailer?
Yeah, she's really been battled over the last few months with the activist pressure, with the proxy battle, and then with the botched acquisition. You know, there were a lot of problems for Kohl's, and she was really under a lot of pressure from the activists to step down, and they were looking for a big change in CEO, and that's what they got today. And so I think that's why the market reaction is generally positive, because it looks like there is some activity going on with the activists and with, you know, a different strategy for Kohl's, which has struggled throughout the year.
Yeah, shares up more than 8%. So what's the future look like for Kohl's?
Well, it depends on who Kohl's decides to choose as the permanent CEO. So Mr. Kingsbury, who was chosen as the interim CEO, used to be the CEO of Burlington. However, he is basically retired, so I don't know that he's really the option for the long term. If he is the permanent CEO, you know, I think that would be positive as far as the activists are concerned, because he was an activist choice last year. He was the guy that the activists had actually tabbed to be potential CEO. So I think that, you know, that's a possibility. But if they do go outside and bring in a different CEO, which I think is also very likely, you know, it's really going to depend on what kind of person they hire. It could be that we could face another proxy battle next year with Kohl's, or possibly that the company will be sold.
You know, David, are there any names specifically that you think would be right for this job? And also just in terms of a potential sale for Kohl's down the road, do you think that could potentially be on the table in the future once again?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to speculate on who Kohl's might hire. You know, they would look for somebody with a strong retail background, with a merchandising background. Michelle Gass, you know, she came to Kohl's from Starbucks, so she wasn't really in the fashion and retail business before going to Kohl's. And I think that Kohl's would be looking for someone with stronger retail experience. As for whether the company will be sold, I still think it's a distinct possibility. Kohl's owns significant real estate, which is potentially worth more than the entire company right now. You know, the board and Michelle Gass had really put a damper on the acquisition earlier this year. They really made it known to potential acquirers that they did not want to be sold. So, you know, a new CEO could potentially open it up to get to acquisitions.
Yeah, there's a deal out there that they might regret in hindsight not taking. It's been a revolving door overall in the C-suite in the retail inventory. Some of the names that have moved on: Bed Bath & Beyond, Under Armour, Glossier, Gap, Old Navy. That's the who in terms of CEOs, 20 of them exiting in 2022. Why? What is it about the sector that has it so active in terms of the exit?
It's certainly been a difficult year for the apparel sector. You know, 2021 was an extremely strong year. So coming back this year, you know, a lot of the comparisons are really tough. The inventory situation has completely reversed, and it's gotten to be very difficult. The shipping situation, the pandemic, there have just been a lot of headaches this year for CEOs in the apparel industry. And so a lot of shareholders and board members have been looking to potentially make changes. Every situation is slightly different. For Under Armour, which you mentioned, you know, Kevin Plank, who controls the company, wanted a CEO who's more focused on growth. In the case of Adidas, the whole Kanye West controversy and the problems they've had in China, there's been a lot of company-specific problems this year because the industry itself has been troubled. And so a lot of boards have been looking to make CEO changes.
David, you mentioned the change that we're seeing at Adidas. Just in terms of the problems that they have had in the past, what it would look like under Bjorn Gulden, are you a little bit more optimistic on their outlook from this point out?
Yeah, it's been a steady stream of bad news for Adidas, so anything at this point would be considered positive. Bringing in the CEO from Puma, I think, is a huge step forward. This was a guy that has had a lot of success at Puma, and he's in the same business, and he has experience at Adidas specifically. So that, I think, is a very strong hire, and that's why the market reaction was positive. I do think that Adidas is quite undervalued in that there are strong reasons to actually want to invest in it right now.